So before I came to Charlotte, I attended a school that had its curriculum really firmly based in holistic education, which is an interdisciplinary approach to curriculum that was largely underlied by the teachings of ancient Greek philosophers. So I spent my developmental years diving into the teachings of Socrates and his student Plato, and approaching all these different disciplines to try to find the answers to questions that really existentially plagued the psyches of 15-year-old girls. And so when I came to college, I was overjoyed because in my mind, I believed that I was about to embark on a journey into my very own lyceum, that college was going to be a perpetual meeting of the minds, all housed in this hub of academia known as UNC Charlotte. So you can probably imagine my surprise the first time I went to a frat party and found out nobody wants to talk about the Platonic forms. But even past that, I've discovered that a larger ideological divide exists on UNC Charlotte's campus between people who are more in liberal arts and humanities majors and disciplines more specialized like STEM or business finance. And while I do think that this kind of divide exists on any campus, UNC Charlotte happens to take it a step further by isolating all of the computer science and engineering students on their own little side of campus away from the rest of us. And do I feel safer knowing that my chances of encountering an engineering student in the wild are relatively low? Yes. But does that bode well for the diffusion of ideas? Unfortunately, no. So our understanding of an early education approach to higher education institutions like curriculums in Yale or Harvard University were originally underlied by the 7 medieval liberal arts and the 3 Aristotelian values. But as our world has further mechanized, enclaves of specialization have popped up that have swung the pendulum in the direction to the preoccupation with STEM and other specialized fields that define a lot of our higher education institutions today. And because of that, there's now this kind of like newfound criticism of whether liberal arts studies really exist and belong on university campuses. But the reality of the situation is that when it comes to education, these two disciplines need one another to exist. And this isn't just liberal arts thinkers believing this. Some of the foundational understandings and actors of science also believe in the importance of holistic education. This quote by Albert Einstein helps us understand that a holistic education doesn't necessarily have to be a broad one. Rather, it's an education that is reflective of the interconnected nature of the world around us. So today, I'd like to address my friends on both sides of the aisle to explain how a more holistic approach to our education will help us grow into the kind of innovators and change makers that the world needs right now. So while this call for curricular hyperspecialization does exist at almost any institution, I hear it a lot with students at UNC Charlotte when it comes to undertaking the dreaded LBSTs. For those of you who aren't familiar with Charlotte's coursework, LBSTs are general education requirements based in the liberal arts and sciences. And these classes tend to have students ask questions like, why do I need to take a class on the history of dance when I am paying money to this school to be a computer programmer? Now, you probably don't have to be a philosophy major to understand that the answer to that question is relatively simple. You probably shouldn't. In her 1977 address to the students of Douglas College on the occasion of their convocation, American poet Adrienne Rich urges students to understand that their time at university should not be just for receiving an education, but for claiming one. Claiming your education means being an active participant in creating the foundational knowledge that will serve you for the rest of your life. Regarding your LBST classes as freebie credits robs you of an opportunity to really critically analyze the courses available to you to understand how you can develop skills to further yourself in the future. Innovation hinges on human understanding, and humanistic coursework often endows students with the kind of empathy and ethical thinking that is so lacking from industries today. And it's probably no coincidence that as liberal arts and humanities coursework is being slashed across the country, there are newfound concerns about the ethical basis for curriculums underlied in STEM or MBA programs. And while there are certain soft skills provided from humanities coursework, like communication, critical thinking, because we know that there is a lot of problems that can come without innovation being from a human-centered mindset, we can understand that humanities learning provides another, frankly under-talked about, harder skill: context. How can you expect to revolutionize the human experience if you don't have a firm understanding of what happened in the past? And even more concerning is what happens when these innovations come without deference to what is the present human context. The future of artificial intelligence has caused many people to put on their humanistic thinking caps to consider what would happen if AI systems begin to subjugate real human beings. Well, I'm here to tell you that that day has already come. Internal biases, and though people often assert that this kind of technical innovation is neutral, it's impossible for us to ignore the fact that those that program these systems are not. The internal biases of white computer programmers have created a situation where, as A.W. Olsheiser of Vox observes, researchers and users alike have identified anti-Black biases in artificial intelligence system programs related from job hirings to home loans. Because artificial intelligence programs pick up on patterns, a programmer who doesn't understand the present human context, in this case, the prevalence of systemic racism, to know to code against it, fails to provide anything meaningful to the existing technical landscape. Now, because I am taking a holistic approach to this speech, I will now turn my microscope to those in the liberal arts. While I am all in favor of a humanities education, it's kind of hard to ignore that the job prospects are a little less clear-cut. And despite this, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. To understand how to utilize the skills given to you by a liberal arts education in the job market merely takes a renegotiation of our understanding of the paradigm of what art is. The world needs the critical thinking, ethicality, and global context that comes with the humanities education. But if our understanding of that never transcends the discipline past academia, that can never happen. And there are many thinkers who started out in liberal arts fields and have since lent their minds into other disciplines. Because as the world grows and changes, there are no shortage of ways that humanistic thinking can be used as an operational toolkit for data science, fiscal operations, engineering, and even computer science. The emergence of the digital humanities discipline shows us many different ways and many different jobs that have appeared for those in the humanistic thinking process, such as digitization, techno-exorcism, and social network mapping. And all of these ways are situations in which a humanistic degree can be a key into the tech field. And understanding the intersection between humanistic thinking and technical innovation lies within classic questions of autonomous vehicle programming. If a self-driving car can swerve to hit a pedestrian but in effect endanger the person inside of the car, whose safety should it be programmed to prioritize? I don't know. But I'm sure that a conversation between a programmer and someone well-decorated in their philosophy department will bring us one step closer to that answer. Now, I know that in a way what I'm suggesting is easier said than done. We're here at college for 4 years, and there is a lot of knowledge that needs to be packed into that time, especially for people in STEM degrees. But nonetheless, I challenge you to think about the kind of impact you want to have in your field as well as in your community. And these words from Rich. UNC Charlotte is a different kind of institution, and it is my firm belief that the students coming out of it should have a different kind of education. While my call is for students to be more conscientious about their coursework, as I close, I'd like to also put the onus on faculty and administration. Course registration restrictions severely limit the kind of worldview students are able to develop, which means that it is even more imperative that educators act as beacons for this kind of complex thinking. Charlotte is home to a booming financial industry, but it's also home to a healthy community of artists. So if I can say anything to you all today, as scholars, creatives, and innovators, it's this. Much like the city of Charlotte, you should never feel like you only have to be one thing. Thank you.